The story served as a powerful reflection on how truth can easily become distorted when complex realities are simplified for the sake of headlines and fast consumption. It began with a seemingly ordinary report from a small café in a northern U.S. town near the Canadian border. The television piece showed a local business owner talking about a decline in Canadian visitors, something that initially appeared to be another predictable story about border economics. The woman was portrayed as a friendly cafe owner hoping for the return of Canadian tourists to keep her business afloat. At first glance, it seemed like a familiar narrative, the kind where a struggling business appeals for international customers, expressing nostalgia for busier days and friendlier times. Yet beneath that surface was a story that the broadcast had failed to capture, one that revealed much more about understanding, sincerity, and the importance of hearing someone in full rather than in fragments. The report itself focused narrowly on numbers and economics. It highlighted that about a quarter of the cafe's business came from Canadian customers and noted that fewer were visiting because of the weaker Canadian dollar and the changing political atmosphere. During the short interview clip, the cafe owner mentioned that some Canadians didn't feel welcome in the U.S., a statement that could have opened the door to meaningful discussion. But instead, the report quickly pivoted back to simple visuals. A cafe decorated with a Canadian flag, social media posts celebrating Canada Day, and messages inviting Canadians to visit again. The editing shaped her into a symbolic figure, not a real person with opinions and empathy, but a stereotype of a business owner appealing to sentiment for financial reasons. The nuance was lost, and what was left was a comfortable story that audiences could digest without much thought. As the segment circulated online, it caught attention on social media and in online discussions. Many people viewed it through the lens of cross-border politics, assuming it was just another example of American businesses lamenting lost income from Canadian visitors. Among those who shared or commented on it were writers and commentators who, trusting the story as it was presented, repeated the same limited perspective. But then, something unexpected happened. The cafe owner reached out directly to one of the commentators who had discussed her story. Her message was not angry or defensive. It was calm, thoughtful, and generous in spirit. She explained that the interview broadcasted on television represented only a small fraction of what she had actually said. Her full conversation with the reporter, she revealed, had been much more open, honest, and critical of the very issues that had led to the decline in cross-border travel. She had spoken about her disagreement with certain U.S. policies and the divisive rhetoric that had made many Canadians uncomfortable visiting. She had expressed solidarity with those who chose to stay home in protest, saying she respected and even admired their decision. She had voiced her frustration with how politics had strained the warm relationship between neighboring communities that used to visit one another freely. None of that was included in the final broadcast. What remained on screen was a fragment, one that stripped away her convictions and reshaped her into a symbol of economic longing. After realizing this, the commentator who had repeated the edited story recognized their mistake. They had generalized her, assuming her motives aligned with the simplified narrative shown on television, when in truth, she was someone guided by empathy and conscience. In the days that followed, the cafe owner went even further. She recorded a heartfelt video message addressed to anyone who had seen the earlier report. In that video, she apologized for a minor incident, a moment when she had accidentally held the Canadian flag upside down in a social media post. It was an honest mistake made in haste, she explained, never meant to offend. She spoke with humility, saying how much she admired Canada and its people. She even shared small details that revealed her affection, how she visited Canada frequently, celebrated holidays in Thunder Bay, and preferred buying Canadian-made products. She joked that Canadian toilet paper was better, a light-hearted comment that made her message all the more human and sincere. But beyond the humor, her message carried a deeper wisdom. She talked about what she had learned from the experience, about how easily interviews can be trimmed, reshaped, and repackaged to fit a desired narrative. She explained that in the future, she would rather speak live, unedited, so her full meaning couldn't be distorted. She didn't express bitterness toward the media. Instead, she reflected with grace, acknowledging the responsibility that comes with being interviewed and the importance of context in storytelling. Her humility left an impression. It reminded those who had misunderstood her that empathy still exists, that people can disagree, misunderstand, and yet still find common ground through open communication. The commentator who had covered her story later apologized publicly, acknowledging their own rush to judgment and thanking her for her kindness in setting the record straight. That experience became a lesson not only about one cafe owner, but about the media as a whole, about how stories are shaped, and how what's left out often tells a bigger truth than what's shown. Newsrooms may simplify for the sake of brevity or audience appeal, but real people don't fit neatly into those edited boxes. The story demonstrated how vital it is to listen, to seek the full picture before forming opinions, and to remember that every headline has a human being behind it. After reflecting on that experience, attention turned toward something more hopeful: the resilience and connection that tourism fosters between people and nations. Across Canada, there were signs of renewal and growth. On the Atlantic coast, Halifax enjoyed one of its busiest cruise seasons in history. The harbor was so crowded that some ships had to anchor offshore, with tenders ferrying passengers into the city. The streets were alive with visitors, restaurants thrived, and local businesses felt a wave of energy that revitalized the waterfront. Plans were even being discussed to expand docking facilities across the harbor to Dartmouth, spreading the benefits more evenly across the region. On the opposite side of the country, Vancouver Island was experiencing its own tourism boom. From the provincial capital of Victoria to the rugged coastline of Tofino, hotels reported near-capacity bookings, some reaching up to 95% occupancy. The season had started earlier than usual, with travelers arriving as early as spring instead of waiting for summer. The Comox Valley Airport broke records, handling over 50,000 passengers in a single month, the busiest in its history. Visitors came for the wild beauty, the whale-watching tours, the quiet beaches, the ancient forests, and the sense of peace that the Pacific coast offers. Many described their visits as rejuvenating and even magical, a reminder that travel is about more than destinations. It's about connection, curiosity, and shared humanity. Tourism, as the reflection pointed out, is not only an economic engine, but also a form of bridge building. On Vancouver Island alone, it provides tens of thousands of jobs, supporting local families and communities. Yet beyond the numbers, it nurtures relationships between locals and visitors, between nations, and between cultures. Even as political tensions rise or currencies fluctuate, people continue to cross borders in search of experiences, friendships, and understanding. As the summer faded into autumn, there was a sense of calm, a quieter season when locals could reclaim their favorite places and explore their own country. The slower pace, the cool air, and the emptier roads offered Canadians a chance to appreciate what was already around them. From the rocky Atlantic shores of Nova Scotia to the rainforests of British Columbia. Looking back, the entire journey, from the misrepresented news segment to the rediscovery of truth and empathy, stood as a reminder of how vital compassion and patience are in storytelling and in life. It showed that people cannot be reduced to clips or quotes. Their sincerity often lies in the parts we don't see. It also revealed that, despite political divides or national differences, there are countless individuals who value kindness and mutual respect. In the end, the story became about more than tourism or media. It became about connection itself. It reminded everyone to question surface-level narratives, to listen carefully before judging, and to recognize that understanding often begins where assumptions end. Even in times of division, genuine humanity still breaks through, quietly, humbly, and powerfully. It was a lesson in reflection, correction, and, most importantly, connection. A reminder that empathy and honesty can still bridge even the widest gaps when people choose to listen to the full story. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.